So, welcome to the Roundtable. My guest this evening is Mr. Joel Roster.
Hello.
Hello, who happens to be my sister's kid. But beyond that, I will read the bio so I don't mess this up.
That's right.
Joel Roster is the artistic director for the Other Theater Company, or TootCo. I love that. As well as the theater manager for the historic El Campanile. Is it El Campanile?
Yeah, El Campanile.
How
I mean,
white.
I like
white.
I do. Yeah, I do love the flavor that you put on it. But yes,
Thank you.
El Campanile. Yes.
El Campanile Theater, right in shadow of Mount Diablo, in Antioch, California. His podcast, the Other Theater Podcast, or 2Pod, can be found on Apple, Spotify, and all streaming platforms. He is a multiple award-winning actor and director and a proud member of Actors Equity Association. Now, for total transparency, we have absolutely no guests now, Joel. So
Yeah.
I am recording this, and people don't want to hear, an uncle and a nephew chatting about.
I was saying to your sister, my mother, before doing this, that really probably what the theater community needs more than anything is a couple of white guys sitting down and talking about theater for a little bit. I think that's probably best damn thing. That's the.
You know what? We are representative of the last 600 years. So there you go.
Also, I want to now that these pictures are side by side, I really want to dispel the theory that we're related.
Jesus, it's not going to happen.
Jesus Christ! Look at that! Look at that! That's ridiculous.
It's there is a family resemblance here.
A bit, yeah.
So let me ask you this. I'm going to start right out by the last thing you mentioned here. Proud member of Actors Equity Association.
Yeah.
First of all, definitely congratulations on that. That is something that is not easy to achieve. And so my question is, has it helped you or hurt you in the long run?
It's too early to tell, to be honest with you. I've only been a member of Equity for a couple of years. I've been earning points I've been earning points for about 10, 12 years. If I'd started with the first show I could have earned points for, I probably would have turned union about 6, 7 years ago. But I've only been in the union for a couple of years. As an equity actor, I've done one production, but then a couple of other things came up.
That was A Christmas Story, right?
That was A Christmas Story, yeah. And yeah, but then I've got a full-time job, and that's taken a lot of time. And then a couple of things happened on our planet, and which sort of slowed the everything. But yeah.
Not a lot of equity productions going up right now.
Not for anyone, no. Man.
So how did you feel when you earned the points? When you finally earned the points?
Oh, it's a big honor. And it's a chunk of change. But it's I was pretty I was pretty honored. It's all I wanted to do from the time I was a kid was make a living acting. So it's or make a living in theater. So no, it's you're part of a different group. It is a professional union, and it's there is a weight to that, I think.
Yeah.
No, it was.
I would say so.
It was pretty nifty. You get the little card and you do a little dance, and no, it was great. It is great. Even though there's nothing happening right now.
Well, I will go on record as saying I'm super proud of you.
Oh, thanks, Uncle.
Not so much about the union, because I've got my mixed feelings about equity, honestly.
Sure.
Just because I've there are a lot of actors that I have not been able to work with after the first time I worked with them because they got into equity and then, gosh, they just can't act anymore. So that's my big drawback for that. But I'm proud of you because you have continuously earned money in theater. Aside from the short stint at working at Penny's, right?
That's right.
Right. But
no,
jobs have been in theater, right?
Yeah, consistently since I was. I started making any kind of money at it from I think 17 or 18, and I started getting paid for shows. The first time I got paid was I was 12. And I got a check for $50 for saying 2 lines in Bleacher Bums. And I lost my mind. I lost my mind. That was it for me. I was like, I did it. I'm an actor. And I spent it on candy and records. And
okay, full disclosure. And who was the director of that show that cast you?
That is the one. It's so funny because you posted a thing promoting this, talking about nepotism. And it's and we can talk about that actually in a second, because that is something I do want to talk about with you. But I'm vehemently against nepotism. I'm vehemently against it, and it's cost me relationships in the past. But yeah. to that degree of being that against nepotism. But that was the one time my father showed me any kind of nepotism was giving me 2 lines in Bleacher Bums, and that was so yeah. But no, I'm it's which made this all the more funny because this is blatantly nepotistic. Yeah.
Well, I will tell you this. Since you brought him up, and just for the record, you and I have never worked together in the theater.
No, we've consistently lived 400 miles away from
we
each
have
other.
consistently lived 400 miles away, and that opportunity has not come up in all of the years that combined that you and I have been doing theater.
Yeah.
But the one thing that we do share is your dad, because we've each worked with him. You for 2 whole lines.
That's right.
Me, quite a bit more. I continue to say that he was one of my great mentors. I don't have a lot of mentors, but I learned a hell of a lot from your dad.
Yeah.
And obviously you did too, just watching.
Yeah, sure.
Because I see you on stage and I see a lot of him.
Whether
I'm sure you've heard it.
Yeah, whether I wanted to or not, there's a lot in there, for sure.
Oh yes, David Roster was the man's name, and
I got to right before a couple years before the end of his life. There's this one play, Bleacher Bums, is a play that you and I have in common, and so does Dad.
It runs through our family blood.
and if you don't know Bleacher Bums, it's a lovely show. I wouldn't put it in the top 100 plays ever written. I really wouldn't. I think it's one of the most heartwarming, lovely little plays. It's all about the Chicago Cubs, and we've all had a part of it. But the second to last time I directed it. We can't do that play anymore.
No.
We can never do it again. It's a period piece.
The Cubs piece.
The Cubs won.
Yeah, they screwed us.
Yeah. But the second to last time I directed it, he was going to be the announcer. And he couldn't do it. His health was too bad. But he did for one night warm up the crowd. He came in and he warmed up the crowd, and
oh, that's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, for one night, and it was dynamite. Yeah.
Hello, Michael.
Hey.
What's happening, Joe? What's happening?
Hey, good to see you.
Yeah, you as well.
Thank God you showed up.
What's going? What's going on?
We're recording this for posterity, but we have no audience tonight except for you. So thank you for being here, Mike.
No, of course. Sorry, Joel. Obviously, a million people comments.
No, we were saying that Joel had the line of the evening so far, which is the one thing people are just craving at this point is to hear two white guys talking about theater.
That's why I'm here.
So
it's like,
anyway.
And it's even better if they're related.
And they're related.
Oh, yeah.
Like people even want to. Oh man.
So take no offense if I mute myself right now.
No, you're good.
You may.
Talk amongst yourselves.
But if you do have a question for either one of us, please ask it, Michael.
Yeah, let's talk. Where are we at?
Well,
because I love theater. Where are we at?
You know what? We've just sort of been talking about our history and the fact that our connection, aside from blood, is Joel's dad and my ex-brother-in-law, who was a wonderful director and a wonderful acting teacher who I know when I teach a workshop, I've stolen liberally from.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, so he was in it for a long time. The last thing I think he directed before he died 10 years ago this year, which is crazy.
Oh,
but isn't that crazy?
Yeah,
but oh no, it's all right. The last thing he directed was, I think, 96. It was 1996, I think, was the last thing he directed. But
so what was it about him then that he could do that you'd like to emulate?
That's a great question. I'll jump in with that one. David could help an actor find aspects of a character that I don't think any of us thought of when we would start. And he had a passion for theater that was contagious. So he really made his cast members care more than most directors can. I hope I stole that aspect from him. What else, Joel? What made your dad?
Oh man. It's so funny because I get into arguments with my mom all the time. Not arguments, but heated discussions. Because with the older I get and the more I look back on, I thought he was a brilliant director. And just yeah, like you said, he was magnetic. He brought people in. He had a clean eye. He was one of the only directors I've ever seen in my entire life that was able to direct himself successfully, which is a ballsy move for anyone to try and do. He had a pretty healthy ego though, so he just kind of laid into that. But no, there are some choices that the older I get, like, they were bold, man. The last time he directed the Fantastics. I don't know how familiar you are with the Fantastics. But in the second act of that show, there's pirates who come in, right? They're played by the old actor Mortimer. Mm-hmm. He decided they were going to be Nazis. Like, bold, old man. And a friend of mine, a colleague of ours, that Greg knows as well, a guy named Scott, told me years later that he saw that show, and he was like, I always talk about that Nazi Fantastics and how it was one of the weirdest things I ever saw. But he directed Cuckoo's Nest and turned the entire theater into the psych ward.
Nice.
And
instead of programs, he handed out the dossiers on the patients.
Yes, I stole that. I stole that from him.
Really love the idea of environmental theater, which I think is pretty cool. But yeah. And if you like old movies, you can catch him in Howard the Duck.
Yes,
he's in that movie.
Yes, he is.
One of the worst films.
Pretty bad.
Ever been made.
Pretty bad. But
I saw in the theater.
His scene was incredible. He
plays
plays a guy at a diner. If you're looking for the movie, he's the guy, heavyset guy sitting at the counter at the diner.
His center screen in like 4 different shots. And I loved it as a kid because he was in it. And then I watched it again when I was like in high school. And I went, I don't think this is very good. And then I watched it in my early 20s. And I went, oh, it's one of the worst films I've ever seen. Just because so much money was put into it. I don't know who had faith in that movie, but a lot of people did.
I got to tell you, one of my great disappointments in life was watching the Avengers movie that the collector actually had Howard the Duck in a case.
That's right.
And your father was not in a case next to him.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was.
Oh, I missed that part.
You got to go back. They're really the cinematic universe is really committed to canon. It's he's in there. He's. But yeah.
Anyway.
Anyway.
So
no.
On. Let's move on.
Wait, he's sitting at the counter?
Your father enough time.
Yeah.
He said, oh, you're
looking up.
Oh, Michael's doing research now. Oh, that's great. Anyway, so if you could give one piece of advice to a young actor, and it can't be, don't go into acting. What would it be, Joe?
In that's a big question. Are you talking in the audition room and what to do with their career?
I'm talking
and
about
what to do with
how they should, how they should
enjoy
their life as an actor.
That's it. The only thing I can say is that if you ever get to a point where you feel like you've got it figured out, quit. There is most other people in the game are still trying to learn with every single thing that they do, and trying to open their minds more and more and more. Don't become cynical. Love what you're in. You got into it because you loved it. If you ever get to a point, and I got to that point, if you ever get to a point where you feel like you're not digging this anymore, take a step back. Take a step back for a second. Don't force yourself to do it just because that's what you do. You have to rediscover your love for it. But that's the biggest general thing I think I could say. There's a lot of you'll find with a lot of not with a lot of older actors from here on up, getting a little more bitter and a little more cynical, and that's rough, and it does happen when you're in it for that long. But there are folks that have been in it for a long time that are in it. You feel that joy coming out of them with every single show. I guess that's probably the biggest thing.
Ever been a moment that you thought, nope, I'm done?
I had to step away for a couple years, and you mentioned J.C. Penney in the beginning of this. I had been working professionally in my day job and my night job in living and breathing theater for 15 years, and I knew that if I left a job, and I knew that if I'd taken another job in theater right away, I'd hate it for the rest of my life. And I was like, I can't do that. This is the only thing I know how to do. And if I start to hate it, then it's no. So I took a step back, and I got a job at J.C. Penney's, selling major appliances, and just something that I could leave there every day. Because the biggest thing with working in theater in any regard, with plays or anything else, is you bring that home. You absolutely bring that home. And so I wanted a job that I could just leave that there. So yeah, for about a little under 2 years, I had to step away. And I was so thankful I did, because when I came back, I'd started this theater company. And I was like, I took some time off, and of course, like 6 months into that, I started going like, okay, but when I start doing theater again, what am I going to do? So, but but yeah, I think if you start to lose your gusto, if you start to lose your sparkle for it, I think you got to take a break for a minute. And there's nothing wrong with that. You're taking a break because you love it and you don't want to not love it. So anyway, yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. So you've been an actor, a director, a producer, an artistic director, theater manager, which is basically kind of a business manager. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. What do you like best?
I've also and I've also been teaching
and
too.
a writer and a teacher.
I love directing, and I love teaching. I think that's probably at the top of it. Is probably teaching, but directing's right underneath that. I love acting, but the older I get, I'm just like I'm okay. I've acted a lot and everything, and I'm just I kind of, you know, I really enjoy directing, but teaching's probably at the top of that. I've been teaching since 2002, and no, I love it very much.
But I'm pretty sure. I mean, I've never had the pleasure of being directed by you, but my guess would be that, very much like me, you view the director role as a teacher role.
Oh yeah, well, to a degree, yeah. And I was too heavy-handed with that in the beginning too. I was like, because I was just out of like junior college and stuff, and I started working right away, and so I was going like, all right, I need to lead my cast in warm-ups at the beginning and at the end of rehearsal every single day. And like, because that's what I thought, because I thought it was that intertwined, without thinking, actors are grown people that can probably warm themselves up, unless you've got like a dialect coach, or you've got a movement coach or something like that. You've got a choreographer and you're going to do movement for the night. No, it's like, but yeah, I really thought it was far more intertwined. There's a great, can I swear on this? Does it matter?
Sure.
Is it okay?
No, yeah.
Okay. All right. Because it's a story that I heard Kathy Bates say about directing, because she was been directing for like 6 Feet Under and stuff. And there's a great anecdote about it's a true story about a famous composer whose name, or not composer, conductor whose name we'd all know. It was conducting at Carnegie Hall, and he was just horrible all week leading up to the performance, right? He was just famously awful and just berating the musicians and just absolutely terrible. So the opening night comes, and he walks out there, and the audience gets to their feet, and they're just going nuts, and the orchestra's just glaring. And he gets to the lectern, the little conductor stand there, and he taps, and he brings up his hand and brings down the downbeat. Nothing. Silence. And he like just starts glaring, and he brings it up again, and he gives the downbeat. Nothing. And the first violinist stands up and says, "That's to show you no music comes out of that fucking stick in your hand." And that was the greatest anecdote she'd ever heard about directing, and I couldn't agree. You brought musicians together. You brought together an oboe player and a trumpet player and everything. Your job is to guide them, and it's not to instruct necessarily. It's not. It's there's a guidance there, I think, more than necessarily a teaching. You know, but you gotta give musicians space to play.
I've often said, after seeing a show that I particularly did not like, and I'm afraid there have been a lot of those.
There's a lot of bad plays out there.
A lot of times I've walked out of the theater, and when someone said, "Why didn't you like it?" I said, because I could see the directorial choices everywhere I looked. It was so obvious that the director wanted to be in the show.
Just forced onto what was happening. And so, yeah, for sure. No, it's, Yeah, you nailed it too. Of being able to literally see those.
You can see it.
Yeah,
you can see it, and I also, when I was a lot younger, I was guilty of it. I put a lot of crap in my shows that it was like, why am I doing that? But because I wanted to be clever.
Oh, sure. Oh,
Yeah.
but I mean, you're still learning. You know what I mean? And now, if you were at the age you are now and still doing that,
Dead.
That's correct. That's correct. And by the way, thank you for joining us.
Anytime.
It's an effort when you're dead.
It is. It definitely is.
No, I think if you were still, but that's what I mean. You gotta keep wanting to learn. You didn't come in and just force that over and over and over again for 20 years,
Right.
Yeah.
40. I've been doing it for 40 years now, Joel.
But you're 36 years old, Greg.
You should see this fetus with this little baton.
There it is. What can I ask you? Can I ask you something real quick?
Michael, Veronica, yeah, of course. But I just want to prompt these two who are just, you're not making it worthwhile here.
I'm sorry. I have so much noise in my house that if I have the mic on.
You don't need to have the mic on. No, but please, if you have a question for either of us, please send me a chat. I would appreciate it. And
I muted because of Veronica, because she was muted. I was like, I'm going to go mute.
Yeah.
She's not talking. I'm not talking.
I have
Michael,
like a family
thank you for the
of 7.
clip. Michael sent a clip from Howard the Duck.
Oh, there it is. There it is.
Okay.
Well, diner seats.
Anyway,
there it is.
Your question, Joel.
Oh, I was going to ask because you brought it up. Hey, what's the worst play you've ever seen?
Oh,
I have to think that through.
That's a tough one.
I mean, that's something I know innately.
You know what? I can do this because I'm not going to talk about shows that are community theater shows.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've seen many of those that should not have been done.
Sure.
But I do give a little more leeway to them. I will talk about the worst professional show I've ever seen.
All right.
I was very excited about it. Kais and I went to New York and we scored tickets to one of the preview. To be fair, one of the preview performances, so maybe they fixed it, of Arthur Miller's The Price, just recently with Tony Shalhoub.
Oh yeah, was it no good, huh?
It was.
I've also never read The Price.
It's not a great play. It is. It's not. Okay. It's no Death of a Salesman.
Sure.
So that was the first problem, was that the script is not great.
Okay.
But we walked in and the set was, as you would expect, being Broadway, gorgeous. It was, the whole thing takes place in a jam-packed attic of this family's house where all the furniture is stored and everything. So it was a big platform, open staging, with kind of a grid ceiling with chairs hanging from it, and it was very, very cool. The whole background of New York skyline was visible with incredible number of water towers.
Awesome. Oh my gosh.
Which I thought would have a significance. And from what I could gather, having been to New York several times, it's because a lot of buildings have water towers, and that was what it had nothing to do with the play, aside from they were there. And it was so obvious. There were so many of them, just it had to have something to do with the play. Didn't. Everyone in the show, it felt like everyone was doing a different play. There was just not a standard, consistent style to the show. Tony Shalhoub looked like he was doing a TV sitcom. He was very big, very animated. When What the hell is his name?
That's
What's the lead's name? I'm trying to think of who.
He's my favorite.
The Hulk. What's his name?
Mark Ruffalo.
Mark Ruffalo, who I love.
Yeah.
I couldn't understand a word he said. He mumbled and kerfluffled all the way through the thing. Danny DeVito, also one of my favorite people.
Yeah.
Came in, and he was probably the best of the lot. But talk about a directorial choice, and I'm assuming no, it's not a directorial choice, because I think the director for this show was in awe of the actors that he had in it and was afraid to pull them back.
That's exactly what I was going to say. If there wasn't consistency with those powerhouses of actors all the way across, that only means that the director was so intimidated that he just didn't want to get involved, just wanted to let them do their thing and just tell them where to go.
There was a scene where Danny DeVito comes in, and he's the guy that's there to buy the furniture from the family. And he comes in with a bag lunch and sits down and proceeds to peel a hard-boiled egg forever. And the audience is laughing because it's Danny DeVito, and it's funny, and it's quirky, and it's, he's playing it up. He never stopped. I mean, it went forever. I'm not kidding you. I know how stage time feels as opposed to what it really is.
Yeah.
He had to be doing it for 10 minutes.
Well, I'll tell you something. That sounds exactly like the kind of knee-slapping, gut-busting humor you come to expect from Arthur Miller. You know what I mean? Sweet. That's what I mean, man. Like, you know that Danny DeVito came in and was just like, I think I want to peel a hard-boiled egg in this scene. The director went, I love it. Do that forever.
Do it, because I think it's going a little slow right now.
Yeah, man. That's upsetting. That's
I'm waiting for the same group to come back with The Crucible, but that's
that right?
No, so that was a tough one. That one that's
a bad show.
We almost walked out of. Oh. And but it was Broadway, and we paid a lot of money, so we stayed.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I don't necessarily know if I have like a worst play ever, because I've worked on some that was like, oh geez, the audience must be tortured. But I think one of the plays that wasn't consistent, like in design wise, was Whack at Kirk Douglas. They just had, because I was interning there, and I just think that they didn't think through of how to solve the issue of the set thoroughly, and like everyone was complaining about this too, and then they just what the problem was that they had a set on a turntable, and they had 3 like angled rooms, so it would turn and it would be a new set. But what they did for one point was, instead of just quickly trashing the room in a later scene, they made a duplicate set. So they had 2 sets of the same thing. And it was kind of confusing on a technical standpoint, but I don't think the play was bad. But I also don't want to trash talk any plays that like I worked on.
I know. Totally. No, please don't, Veronica. You want to trash talk a play that you worked on, Michael?
2. I can trash talk 2. Los Angeles is just a bunch of it's a melting pot of actors and writers and directors and all over the place, and you better get your start in theater if you're going to be an actor or director or anything. That's my opinion. And it's the reason I stayed out here is because it's cheaper here than it is in New York to do theater, to put on theater. Now, as a theater actor, so obviously everyone's trying to write a script. It doesn't matter if it's film and all that stuff. It's still the same for theater. Everyone's trying to write something, and everyone's just trying to act in something.
Yeah.
And you've got people that don't know how to theater act or write or anything like that. So 2 of them, and no, they're not yours, Greg. I'm not going to mention. Yeah. There was one of them. I was at the Ivar Theater, where I think the director was also the writer. It was a Christmas story of sorts, and it had a lot of heart. You know what they were going for, but the director was drunk and he wouldn't quite show up. The story was very loose anyways, and it was very, I don't want to mock Disney, but say Disney-ish, but it wasn't Disney-ish. It was so just, hey, oh, it was like a Robin Hood Christmas. That's what it was called.
Oh, man.
And so anyway, so that was one of them. And another one, and hopefully nobody sees this who was associated with it. It was in here in North Hollywood. It was, again, a loosey-goosey type of thing where it was just a bunch of people that felt like it just wanted to do things. And I'm not sure what it was exactly about. I had to be in it, and I literally had the actor's nightmare where I was supposed to understudy in my first day. They called me up to be in the play, and then don't worry, we'll work around you. And it's like, really, if this is the amount of work that I've got to put into this, and the show still succeeds, it's like, there's no story, and there's only just friends here patting our backs. But it was just so loosey-goosey. And again, it's those type of professional ones, not the Arthur Miller ones, but those type of professional ones around here that you just go, there's just stuff. It's just stuff.
Yeah.
There's no focus. There's no story. There's no thing that pulls everyone forward.
I will have to say, I get nervous when I see friends of mine that started off in film acting with me doing theater. I'm like, hope it's good. I'm not going to go.
Doesn't transfer.
No.
It's not worth it.
You can go the other way.
Yeah.
Learning theater, live theater, you can learn how to pull it back for film, but it's really, 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 really hard to go the other way.
Yeah.
And it's like a 50-seat theater, guys. It's not that hard. Yeah. Just project your voice.
Yeah.
I promise you.
Yeah, projection is a skill that has kind of gone by the wayside, unfortunately, for many. Yeah. Hey, Joel, here's a question for you.
Okay.
Since we're talking bad theater, this is
yeah.
Have you ever been involved in a show that was far worse than you recognized it to be?
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, I'm sure I have many of them. There was, well, there's a couple, but I wrote them. Like, you know what I mean? Like they were terrible, and I didn't know that until I got commissioned. I got okay, all right. I got asked to write a musical for this theater out in Danville, California. I put together this musical, and I was like, I was in my early to mid 20s, and I wrote it, and it was the age and the time of theater of just going me, and I was just like, I'll say whatever I want, and I wrote this unbelievably horrible thing, and they were going to close their season with it, not workshop it, close their season with it. And so I wrote out, I was like, here, man, and I gave it to them, and they went, we're not putting this on stage. But then a couple years later, I joined up with Town Hall Theater in Lafayette, California, and a guy I knew took over the job as artistic director, and he knew that I'd pitched a musical in the past, and he legit wanted to close his season with it. And I went, it's got to go through rewrites and that kind of stuff. And I went back through and everything. It went through like 8 or 9 drafts of this musical. And the premise was that it was a touring production of a new musical heading to Broadway, and it hit New Haven, Connecticut, and the show ran out of money. And it was the actors' last night in this hotel before they all go back to doing whatever the hell they were doing before. It's not a bad premise. The musical that they're trying to get to Broadway is about homeless people. Funny, right? Everybody. And so it went. But I had so we didn't have a musical director. We couldn't afford a musical. So I came in as the musical director, and that's a character in the show, this pianist in the lobby who plays the piano but never says anything. I didn't think that through to the point that I was sitting on stage just listening to my own jokes bomb night after night after night. And it wasn't until like everyone had such faith in the thing and everyone was so lovely and we hit like opening night and I'm hearing my jokes about 1970s sitcoms just bomb. And I'm going, I don't think we should be charging money for this. So you can find the gold star reviews for this show. There's still
I love that you wrote things about 1970 sitcoms. When were you born, Joel?
But
when were you born?
1982. But I was raised very well. And
what was the name of it?
Oh, I made references to WKRP in Cincinnati, but that was going into the 80s and everything. And I made a reference to Simon and Simon, the show.
Oh my God!
Like I made a reference to Maude and like something else in there, and like it was ridiculous and not good. But the gold star reviews are dynamite. And it's got like an average review of like 1 star. Like that's the average.
What is it? What's the name of it?
The show was called One Night at the Hotel Grand.
I'm looking it up.
Yeah, dude. If you look up that and Gold Star like in the Google search, you'll find it. It's there. It's not good.
2.5.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. 2.5.
Yeah, 2.5.
All right. 12.
Wow, look at that, double what you thought it was.
Read some of those reviews. They're amazing.
You want the shortest one?
Yeah.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Awful, like 10 little dots.
Yeah, so that was, I mean, but in reference to like others, yeah, terrible.
Terrible. So sorry, Joel.
This is a family member right here because Joel Roster is one talented dude.
Oh my God, man!
Does it have a name on it?
That was someone I paid probably to come see it, and oh my God,
that's great.
That's great.
And no, so I mean, I was in a really terrible production of Romeo and Juliet once, but other than that, I'm sure. I mean, people don't like shows for all sorts of reasons. And I'm sure there's been a bunch of shows that I've been a part of that people that I thought were better than other people thought. But yeah, the only ones I can think of are the ones.
I think Michael got to one that he particularly likes.
Wait.
The last sentence of this paragraph is, after yawning for the nth time, we decided to throw in the towel and escape the boredom at intermission. Joel, don't worry, okay? My first time I produced for my own freaking production, I got a review that said Piscatelli does everything they teach you not to do in acting school.
Oh my God.
So that's why I can laugh.
Oh,
that's great.
Oh, that's great.
Oh my gosh.
That's wonderful.
That's.
Now, listen, hey, here's the thing, is that you still did it, though. We can laugh about this. We can
laugh totally.
That's the thing, is that a lot of people don't have the nuts and the courage just to get up there and actually do it, no matter how bad it is.
It's true.
Yeah.
And you know, a buddy of mine who's still one of my best friends, and he built the set for that show, which was stunning. One of the most gorgeous sets I've ever seen. He built this New Haven, Connecticut hotel lobby. It was absolutely stunning. We're still friends, and he defends the show. Like he defends the script of it, and which is very sweet of him. But another friend of mine said when I was writing something else, I wanted to sort of have a down ending. My friend who was in that show goes, Joel, you got to remember something very important you learned from Hotel Grand. You can't end a musical with homeless people singing around a trash can. And that's probably the most important thing I did learn. That's
a very valuable lesson.
It is. You can't, I mean, you can do that, but it's not gonna go the way you want. It's not gonna stay in the. I someone pointed that out to me a little while ago that those were on Gold Star still, and I went,
oh no,
lost my mind.
Yeah, things like that never go away.
No, but I do think I don't know. You bring up an interesting thing because I think you've got to have. We all get excited about the shows we work on, and for a lot of very justifiable reasons. It is another play, you know, and it's and to have perspective and some humility there is very, very important. And to know where things are in the grand scheme of things. That's not to say that whatever you're working on isn't fantastic. It probably is, but do you have a thing that you say to people when you did not like their show?
You know what?
Like, do you have like a standby thing that to
I used to?
You don't ever want to tell people if you didn't like something,
no.
and it's
I used to,
unless they're very close friends, and you can be a little more honest. But
I still, if my very, very close friends know enough not to ask me on the night that I am at a show what I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some will call me like a week later and say, "Okay, now that we're away from it, tell me what you thought." But I used to be really full of myself, and I thought that I owed people the truth when I went to a show, and I lost a lot of friends, and not a lot, but some, and some friends losing some friends because of one's arrogance is never okay, and so I stopped doing that. But one of my favorite things, because I as wonderful an actor that I am, no, everyone please, I have a really hard time lying to people. And so it's really obvious when I don't like something. I try. I really try.
Oh, well, I'm the same way. I've got a terrible poker face.
I have a terrible poker face. What I have found that I will do is I will say something like, you know, it's not my kind of show. Which is true for the most part, usually. Sure. It's tough when it is a show that I think could have been good. And for one reason or another ended up not being good. Yeah. And I will probably still use that excuse. I still, an old friend of your mother's and mine, and I'm sure you've heard this story several times, Joel, used to say, come back after a show and say, just look at you up there.
Yeah. Just look at you up there on that stage.
Which is just brilliant, you know.
Solid, yeah.
Yeah.
A friend of mine used to tell me that she would always say congratulations.
Yeah.
Especially like if she didn't like someone, like their performance. You know what I mean? Not the show, but like if someone was just terrible and didn't know what to say, she'd go, congratulations. And then it was years later, and I think she forgot that she told me that, and definitely said congratulations to me after a show, and I went, "Oh, it's good."
Oh, yeah, no. I would like to go on record as saying sometimes when I say this is not my kind of show, it really is not my kind of show. I mean, we all have our favorite sorts, and there are certain kinds of shows that I will go see. The one thing I will say, and I've said this many times, and I think all of you probably have heard it, is I have given up going to a show because I have a friend involved. I will not do that anymore.
Well, you can't keep up with it.
No, you can't keep up with it, and then it turns out that you are going to shows that you would not choose to see otherwise, which is just setting yourself up for a horrible evening.
And it's about the levels of friendship too. I mean, if they're one of your closest friends, you got to go. But no, my friends get mad at me all the time because I see. No one sees any theater right now, but I am terrible about going to plays because I know. If I see this person in this play, these 6 people will know that I saw them and go, well, why didn't he come to my play?
Right.
And I'm just like, exactly. And I do I would love it's true, but I would love, and I really would love to see everyone's plays. But we've got a lot of everyone's got a lot of colleagues and friends in theater, and it's expensive. That's exactly right. It's incredibly expensive, and but yeah. That's that's a smart move. Yeah, you gotta gauge that stuff. Of just what your level of friendship is there and how obligated you are.
So this brings up something that I wanted to ask you about, because culturally, Northern California, or specifically the San Francisco Bay Area and Southern California, are incredibly different in one big way that stands out. And that is almost every theater you have ever worked at, Joel, pays their actors, correct?
Yeah.
And almost every theater that I have worked at in Southern California does not pay their actors.
Mm-hmm.
How much?
Yeah.
Oh, you're breaking up a little bit, Greg. Are you there? Oh, there you go. There you go. Were you asking how much?
Yeah, how much? 99 Cent Theater used to be $5 performance, you know?
Yeah, no, it's well, a lot in the last 15 to 20 years, but really in the last, about the last 15 to 20 years, as more and more union actors have left New York and come out to specifically the San Francisco Bay Area, because I think a lot went from New York to LA and then from LA up here.
They had their hopes crushed.
Yes. You know what I mean? But a lot had family here or something, a lot of them from the Bay Area. But something happened right around the mid-2000s, and where there used to be maybe 20 theater companies in the Bay Area, suddenly there was close to 200. And it was like everywhere. And everyone was starting one up and everything. And then there was because there were all of these actors that wanted to move up, and theater companies started to compete for actors. And suddenly people who were not offering stipends before started offering stipends. And so now it's pretty standard. It's at least $100. Like that's the bare minimum.
A weekend of performance.
For the run, like a really a very small budget, 1 to 10 person operation, probably $100 to their actors and everything.
20 performances, 12 performances.
Usually 3 or 4 weekends. Yeah, like 12 or yeah. And now, but again, there are some companies that'll pay a stipend to actors going up where to $1,500, $2,000. It's really and wonderfully competitive in that regard. But
it's amazing. My question is, how do they do it?
There is it's grants. It's donations. It's that's where most of it comes from. About 40% of any given theater company, their income's ticket sales. The rest is through donations and grants. Yeah. So there's a lot of that. There's a lot of very philanthropic places to the arts in the Bay Area, which really helps. Yeah.
Is that your theater company as well, Joel? Are you with grants, or are you? Where do you get your money?
So my little tiny theater company, we had 1 season of shows. We're going into our 2nd season. We've had to push that back, obviously, like everyone else, for a year. We have an advisory board of about 6 or 7 people that I'm not involved with. That as other voices for the company. We going into our 2nd season, because it wasn't supposed to be a theater I wanted to put on one show because I wanted to figure out why I loved it again. It was very, very selfish. And I just wanted to get some friends together and do something really stupid. And so we did Ethan Cohen's Almost an Evening, which is these 3 one-act plays, which are ridiculous. And so that's what we did to start off. And it was a blast. And so we did that. And then there was a lot of support, so we went on to another show and then another show. As it looked like it was going to go into a second season, the question sort of became, especially in the wake of all of the events of so far this year, in sort of looking at what are we doing here, and if we are going on, what do we want this to be? So this advisory board came together, and that's for great. But going into next season, we will be paying. We're on that low end, right? We have nothing. We have no money, but we're going to pay $100 stipend to actors for the run, just as a thank you. That's all it is, really. It doesn't even cover gas, but with
all one man shows, right?
That's right. That's right. Well, and that's the other thing is I mean, on so many levels, what was going to be the season got thrown into disarray because with the new mission statement of the company and, or rather just sort of the refocused mission statement of the company, and the kind of shows that we want to do going forward, there's only one show from our original second season that's going to stay in, and that's our opening show, and that's Amadeus. Yeah, it's one of my favorite books of all time. But that falls in line with our mission, so that stays in. But right now we're looking over other stuff. We got some time, it looks like. So.
Yeah, you got some time to look at things.
Jesus, yeah.
and speaking of time, we're out.
Oh, that's it.
We've used up the hour.
Oh, this was fun though.
This was great. Thank you, nephew.
Thanks, Uncle.
I will say once again, super proud of you and love you very much.
That's
before we do this again, sit down with your mother and teach her how to run a computer.
To figure out.
Teach her how to push a link.
It's not that she can't figure it out. She refuses.
I know.
On a principled level.
I know.
Yeah.
Nice.
All right. It was nice talking to you guys. Nice to meet you.
Well, Joel, thanks, man.
Thank
nice
you for showing up.
Yeah.
And Joel, we will do this again. And
whatever.
Because you cannot have enough of 2 related white guys talking together.
Yeah, that's really what everyone wants. It's just more of that.
Right.
Absolutely. So thank you, everybody. Oh, a plug, because I actually know about next week. Next week, we are talking all about improvisation with some of our original members of the Flea Bit Environments, my old improv group.
Oh, right.
So join us on Sunday at 7:00 for Improv Madness. Go for it. All right. Thank you, Joel.
Thanks, Greg.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for showing up.
See you guys.
Take care. Be safe. Bye.